Hi, my name is Carly Crutchfield, and today I'll be talking to you all about carbon credit trading. First off, what is carbon credit trading? Carbon credit trading is a market-based strategy used to monitor and control emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Industrial facilities must monitor their own GHGs through technology they may implement, such as solar panels or a complex system that reduces or removes a pollutant from their waste. But this can become rather expensive for a facility to do, so many purchase carbon offset credits from private parties. The carbon market is where carbon offsets are traded between parties. There are certain agricultural protocols farmers must follow to reduce the amount of GHGs they produce. The changes made must be real to the business, meaning they are not business as usual practices. They must be permanent and verified according to periods stated by the law. Protocols farmers may use to reduce GHGs include conservation tillage, permanent grass planting, tree establishment, and utilizing renewable energy. Farmers must implement these protocols on their farm and have them verified before they can earn carbon credits. The carbon credits are then earned and then they can be sold to companies. Cap and trade programs are market-based systems for controlling the emissions of GHGs. The cap is the limit on the total amount of emissions allowed. An emissions cap is set for an entire industry for a set period of time. Allowances, permits, and credits are all synonymous for the total amount of pollutant that can be emitted within the regulation period. Trade refers to the transactions that are made between the seller of the credits and the buyer of the credits. So how do cap and trade programs work? Let's go over an example. We have two companies here, Furry Furniture Company and Chain Reaction Bike Company. For Furry Furniture Company, their old emission was 800 tons. The industry has now set a cap at 400 tons. Chain Reaction Bike Company's old emission was 600 tons. Each company has an action that they must choose. Furry Furniture Company chooses not to change anything in their business. Chain Reaction Bike Company chooses to reduce their emission by implementing something such as solar panels. Since Chain Reaction Bike Company chose to reduce their emissions, they reduced their emissions by 400 tons. Since Furry Furniture Company chose not to reduce their emissions, they reduced their emissions by 0 tons. For final emissions being for Furry Furniture Company, 800 tons, and for Chain Reaction Bike Company, 200 tons. Since Furry Furniture Company is 400 tons over the limit, or the cap, that the industry has set, they must purchase 400 tons in order to meet the industry's cap. Therefore, they can sell or trade 0 tons because they had no extra emission. Chain Reaction Bike Company reduced their emission by 400 tons, so their final emission was 200 tons. This means they don't have to purchase any extra coverage or any carbon credits, and they can sell and trade their carbon credits worth 200 tons. Carbon offsets are greenhouse gas emission reductions achieved by non-regulated parties. Carbon offsets differ from cap and trade programs because they are achieved by non-regulated parties. Carbon offsets allow entities outside of the cap sector to participate and reduce emissions. This includes farmers. Offset projects allow companies to meet caps at the lowest cost. However, certain criteria must be met for offsets. They must be real, meaning they must represent an actual emission reduction. They must be additional. Emission reduction must be beyond a business as usual practice. They must be permanent and backed by a guarantee, and they also must be verifiable. They must be readily and accurately quantified, monitored, and verified. There are several different carbon offset programs available to farmers. They vary in the projects that they offer. The Chicago Climate Exchange, also called the CCX, is one example of a carbon offset program. The CCX focuses on soil carbon sequestration through conservation tillage, meaning no-till or strip-till, and permanent grass planting. They also focus on forestry projects, including afforestation, sustainable forestry management, and long-lived wood products. They also focus on manure methane destruction and renewable energy. The Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative is another offset opportunity for agriculture. The Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative focuses on manure methane destruction, forestry projects, and reduction or avoidance of carbon dioxide emissions from natural gas, oil, or propane in use combustion due to in use energy efficiency. Earning carbon offset credits can be a complicated process. Therefore, many farmers typically hire a carbon aggregator. A carbon aggregator sells credits in 100-ton units. An aggregator collects individual farm credits, bundles them together in pools that are large enough to trade, and sells them to a buyer. It can be 1 to 2 years before revenue is available, and the revenue is shared between the carbon aggregator and the farmer. Some examples of carbon aggregators are Farmers Edge, Aggregate Climate Credits Corporation, and National Carbon Offset Coalition. Carbon credit trading began in California. California formed its own state-mandated carbon market in 2012. This restricted the emissions of 600 of the state's biggest polluters, who produce 85% of the greenhouse gas emissions statewide. By lowering the cap, emissions should be reduced to 16% by 2020. The California state-mandated carbon market accounted for the unsuccessfulness of the cap-and-trade laws. Instead, the mandate formed a carbon market to reward those who reduce their pollution, rather than reprimanding them for bad behavior. The mandate aims to restrict pollution by targeting the biggest polluters. Typically, carbon offsets have been tied to things like wind farms and tree planting projects. The California Air Resources Board has opened the carbon market to farmers. This is an important tool to encourage more responsible agriculture practices. It takes advantage of the opportunity offered by crop systems as a means to sequester carbon. Crop plants can pull carbon dioxide from the air, store it in their tissues, and convert it to substances that feed microbial life in the soil. The catchphrase carbon farming is used to describe this practice. The phrase carbon farming is used to describe methods which maximize agricultural carbon sequestration. This includes soil building activities such as cover cropping and no-till cultivation techniques. Carbon farming is already being put into practice in California. 21 rice farmers on more than 22,000 acres have said that they want to participate in the carbon market. This is 0.8% of all rice farmers across the United States. The farmers only have to make slight variations in conventional rice cropping methods to reduce the methane that naturally occurs from flooded paddies. The farmers instead have to invest their time and effort in monitoring and paperwork. There are regulations that must be followed, monitoring, measuring that is required, and records that must be collected. Then everything must be audited and verified. Offsets are trading right now around $10.85 per metric ton of carbon. Farmers are averaging around a half ton to a ton and a half of carbon per acre. Therefore, farmers are averaging between $7 to $10 per acre. While this does not sound like a lot, it is built into the California regulations that the price will increase at a minimum of 5% plus inflation each year, so you can automatically expect a 6 or 7% increase on your price every year. There are a variety of markets with different prices and different requirements. Each market has different rules, offset types, start dates for eligible activities, quantity of credits that can be earned, and prices per carbon credit. It is up to the farmer to determine which carbon credit trading market works best for them. So in conclusion, carbon credit trading impacts the environment by reducing the quantity of GHG emissions. Farmers can take advantage of this market by earning then selling their credits. There are many different carbon markets. It is up to the farmer to determine what carbon market best suits their farm. There is a great potential for the carbon credit trading market to grow. I hope that you enjoyed this summary of carbon credit trading in agriculture. Thank you for listening.